Welcome to the Capital City Crew podcast. Join your hosts Jeff, Owen, Josh, and Herman as they dive deep into the game of Malifaux. Explore sophisticated strategies and creative combinations, but always remember in Malifaux, bad things happen.
All right. Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Capital City Crew podcast. We are glad to be back in the studio recording. We know it's been a little bit, but it turns out running and preparing a convention like Nova Open and planning a wedding at the same time absorbs all of your time. But very excited to be back in studio, and huge shout out to Eleanor Runing, who reached out to us from Sweden to have us bring on the show some guests from overseas so we could hear about an exciting tournament that took place. So I'm joined here by Jeff.
Hi.
Josh. Hello. Josh and Herman are off this week, but we are joined here in studio by two amazing guests. So why don't you introduce yourselves? Let's start with Klaas.
Hello. I'm Klaas, an old man from Finland who went to Sweden and played a tournament.
That is a great claim to fame right there.
Hello, I'm Jonni, also from Finland. Not as old as Klaas, but slowly getting there. And also, went to the same tournament.
Yeah, and tell us a little bit about what was the tournament? How big was it? What brought you there?
Klaas.
Yeah, it was me. I sent Jonni a message about, what was it, a month before the tournament or something, that, hey, I'm going to Sweden. Do you want to come to a tournament? And he was like, sure, as long as it's cheap. And then I started looking for cheap tickets and stuff like that. And how we got there was, well, first by boat and then by car. I personally have been quite many times to Sweden to play, and this was like my first chance to get back after the pandemic, during the pandemic, really. So I was really, really excited about that.
That's fantastic. Well, and so, I mean, I know Sweden and Finland border each other, but my understanding is most people live kind of like around the peripheries on the coast of that. Like how you said you went by boat and
car,
drive to there and car.
Personally, I live in the eastern Finland, so I'm 120 kilometers from the Russian border. So first I had to drive 500 kilometers to the coast. That's about 400 miles for you Americans. And then we took the boat over, and then it was about another 400 miles to drive from Stockholm to Gothenburg.
And I do appreciate you doing the conversion here, because most people in the United States are like, what, kilometer? What?
Yep.
Yes, we're sadly backwards in our measurements.
Or forward.
I think it's backwards, Jeff. So that's quite a journey to get there. So I guess that really shows the dedication to getting back into in-person Malifaux. Have you played at all in person during the pandemic, or is this kind of the first debut back?
Well, personally, I've played some. Jonni has probably played more because, we were originally from the same meta, but I moved to Eastern Finland because after work, and there really isn't a meta here. And also, I'm not really that into Vassal. I play it every now and again, but I haven't gotten a lot of practice. But we have actually had a few gaming events during the pandemic, because for some reason COVID always turned down in numbers during summer, so the summers were open, and we organized an event last summer here close to where I live. Not a tournament or anything, but just a game day we put tables up outside on a beach and had a barbecue and some sauna next to it and drank some beers. It was very pleasant and very casual.
Yeah.
That sounds a lot like Craig Shipman from Third Floor Wars hosts a week-long gaming event in the woods where they go out and go camping and set up like barbecues, and they'll do some wargaming and some role-playing games and stuff like that out there in the woods for a full week, and he invites all the North Carolina meta along with it.
Yeah, I've heard about that, and it sounds awesome. This was just a weekend, though, but we've had one of these sort of weekend events like every year except 2020 since I think 2017 or something like that.
Yeah. Something
But
like that.
yeah, but this was the first time it was here in Eastern Finland. It's going to be again this summer, and we're really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's fantastic. Well, and is that just like a generally open thing? Like, do you want to plug that for other Finnish listeners?
Well, it is basically a generally open thing, but they should really tell me that if they're planning on coming, so that I can book housing and stuff like that. But it's usually just been our little Turku meta that comes to it. But everyone is welcome to if they want to.
Great.
This year, actually, one of the Swedes said that they might come, but then again, this is one of the guys that said several years that he might come. So.
Ah.
Yep, one of those. Well, if you're listening, guy who sometimes says he might come, you should come. Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about GothFaux 6 Resurrected. Presumably, this is the 6th time this event has run. You said it's in Gothenburg?
Gothenburg, yes.
Gothenburg. How many players? What's the format?
This year we had a little bit of a weird format. Do you only want to talk about it, or shall I?
I don't know. Weird. Well, basically 2 separate tournaments, each 3 rounds, like on the was it Friday and Saturday? Yeah.
Yeah, Friday, Saturday.
Yep. 3 rounds on both, and then with both tournaments had a prize. Like the winner got a prize, and then the overall best was got the grand prize of a playmat.
Yes, it's a very nice playmat. It's my precious.
Nice. We're all what's the playmat vendor of choice over there?
Deep Cut Studios.
Yeah. Yep. I have a ton of their mats. They're real good. So
Indeed.
we are not sponsored in any way by Deep Cut, though. Deep Cut, if you're listening and you want to sponsor us, we will take that. But their mats are excellent. So
yeah,
good choice.
The first day, I think they were 14 players, and then the second day there were 12.
yes.
We had on the first day we had one guy drop out after round 2 because he wanted to go play Magic. So
yeah,
his choice, I guess. He was actually, I think, second placed second at the point when he jumped out.
Yeah, I think he was 2-0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird. Well, so this was at a larger convention
Yes,
or event?
it was at the convention GothCon, which hasn't got anything to do with Goths. It's Goth because it's in Gothenburg, and it's apparently Sweden's oldest gaming convention.
Oh, cool. That's really exciting. Well, so that sounds doubly awesome. That is, you're both back to do some in-person alpha, but also a convention experience, which I know Jeff and I had not done a convention the whole pandemic until Captain Con earlier this year, and it was really fun to be back and hanging out with people.
Yeah, same in Finland. Our biggest convention, Ropecon, hasn't been held during the pandemic at all, or only online. So there usually was a Manifold tournament there, but that hasn't happened in a couple of years. So it was fun getting to see some new players, not the same 3 guys I play here.
Yeah, exactly.
But fingers crossed we will have Ropecon this year.
Yeah, looks good now.
Awesome. So do you all is traveling to other countries a big thing in your area? Is it like mostly just Sweden, Finland? Do you go down to Denmark or Germany or anything?
Well, Sweden is pretty easy to travel from here, so that's not that tricky. But or Estonia, but the rest are somewhat harder to get to. Like, it's not like you can just jump on a boat and get there.
Yeah, makes sense.
For me, it was pretty easy until early this year that I could go and play in Russia, but now it's not really an option anymore. But I think I'm the one that's traveled most for Malifaux out of our little group. I've been to Russia, I've been to Sweden, I've been several times to Great Britain. I've actually even played at Adepticon once.
Oh, awesome. Very cool. What year did you go?
2017. I was best reser that year.
Nice.
9th overall.
I think I might actually have been there playing in that event. That's cool.
You guys might know each other.
We might have met in person. That's cool. Awesome. Well, okay, so let's maybe get into a little bit of like prepping for the tournament, what you were thinking about going into that. You said before we started the recording, you mentioned that there were 6 guild players out of like 14. It's just like insane.
Something like that, yeah.
I think there were six guild players, and all factions were represented, but well, I can't remember which other faction had 2 players of, because guild was half, and then the others were the rest. And there, for 40, 2 resers, right? Yeah, so 2 resers and 6 guild, and then one of each other faction.
Yeah,
that makes sense. So going into this, let's maybe go with Joni first. What faction did you pick? Why'd you pick that faction? Was there anything you're coming back to this from kind of a hiatus? Was there anything you did to prepare or plan or practice in any way?
Well, decided to go with Outcasts because that's the faction I'm most comfortable with in 2nd edition. Third edition now. Yeah, derp. I've been playing it for a while now, and I have almost a few set lists I like to run with some flex room, depending on pool and stuff. So that was the crew building was the easy part, and then didn't really prepare for it. Didn't get that many games in before, at least not with the tournament pool. So basically just winged it.
Well, it sounds like it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, sort of.
It sounds to me like Sweden needs to up their game. Both these guys were like, we didn't really prepare for it, and then they came down and brought the Finnish domination.
Yeah.
Love it. So you said you've got a couple fixed lists. Actually, we'll come back to lists in a second. Let's hear from class. What was your preparation, if any, for this?
Well, I didn't get that many games of preparation. I played, I think, 2 or 3 games total after deciding to go to this tournament. But I did quite a lot of preparation through theory crafting and discussing on both the Malifaux World Series Discord and on the Weird Discord, mostly with maniacal cackle about Janlo 2 and things like that because he was a little bit of an unfamiliar master to me before, but I wanted to get good at him, and then suddenly Maniacal Cackle comes and says, "This master is so OP," and I was like, "Cool."
You mean free movement on a master that gets to move himself around and basically do whatever he wants is OP? That's no.
I'm sorry. Sorry. What I meant to say was Yanlo 2 feels a bit weak. I think he needs buffs.
Yep, that is spoken like a true tournament player.
There you go. Oh man. So what's your goal then? It sounded like one of your goals in this tournament was like, I want to play a bunch of Yanlo 2 and like really like take it through its paces. Were you doing like so. Did you solo Yanlo 2 or did you mix it up?
Day one on the first tournament on day one, I soloed Yanlo through that. And then I thought, I'm not going to be so... I brought another master that I really like to play, but that none of my friends like to play against. So I thought I'd get a couple of games again in with Kirai too as well. So I decided that I'd play a couple of games with her during day 2, but it apparently went pretty well.
Yeah, her Swirling Spirits or whichever, I don't know what it's called, but where she gets to summon all kinds of little minions over and over. It's very, very powerful. It's
yes, join us.
Yeah.
No. Yoni, it sounded. I heard some like sighing in the background. Is this you've seen this before?
Yes.
So we played one game with Yoni just after the Fun Shield 2 box was released. I played Kirai 2 in his Fun Shield 2 on Symbols, and he didn't get over the center line in that game.
Oh, yes. Wow. Oh, that's rough. Okay, cool. So, all right. So class had the goal of Yanlo 2. We had Yoni was saying, okay, I've got my handful of lists that I run. We're going to see how this goes.
It's like the masters I have run before and know how to play.
Yeah, who are your go-tos?
Von Schill 1 and 2, Parker and Vix.
Parker and sorry, Vix. What was the last one?
Victorious.
Oh, Vix. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you like? Actually, I'm curious. Did you? So you said Von Schill 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Do you do Parker 2 or Vix 2 at all?
No, because I don't have the minis and I haven't even proxied them, so I just went with what I had.
Gotcha. Yeah, we I think Parker 2 is really good. Vix 2, I think the jury's still out. I don't know. They're cool, but they're not. It's not as killy as you want it to, as you think it's going to be. Because you're like, yeah, Vix, it's going to kill stuff, and then you're like, oh, this wasn't.
You don't have 6 AP.
Yeah, it did not hit as hard as you thought. That kind of tripped me up in the Captain Con tournament. But I would definitely say try out Parker 2.
Yeah, I've been like trying to theorygraph something with this card, but looks fun. Gives a bit more mobility.
Cool.
With the lasso. And also, yeah.
So are there, just, I guess one other kind of like scene setting question, are there any like particular nuances or popular things in either the Finnish or Swedish metas that might be worth calling out, like particular popular factions or masters or tactics?
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest, because like since the pandemic hit, I've been like there's been like 1 or 2 events that people have been able to go to, and other than that, there hasn't really been much mixing in between the different groups, the different areas playing. So there's us from the Turku area, and then in the Tampere area, there's other people that we mix a little bit. Then there's in the Helsinki area, and I haven't heard from anything from them in quite a long while. And things like this. So I think the Finnish meta is needing to how should I say, reform itself at the moment. We don't really have a cohesive meta, nor a coherent meta at that.
Yeah, just small fragments of groups.
Yeah, I think that's the case in like all over, honestly. Like, so I'm hoping we keep saying like, oh, now that the pandemic's over, like it's not actually over, but like as it maybe winds down, fingers crossed, like hopefully some of that stuff will come back and be able to reform and reforge. All right, so when we go to a quick break, and then when we get back, let's talk about day one. We'll go through the rounds, talk about how they went, takeaways, etc. And so listeners, stick with us. We'll be right back. We're going to hear all about GothFaux 6 Day 1.
Malifaux Champions. The USFaux Tour is in high gear, and the standings are now published live at www.usfauxtour.com. Make sure you register your events and send in your results to us using the form on the website. Do you have what it takes to qualify for the Masters? We'll find out at the Nova Open this year. See you there.
All right, folks, welcome back. So we are going to talk in this next segment about day one of the tournament, which for this event was actually, like we said in the first segment, is 2 separate 3-round tournaments. So a really unique format this time. So we're going to talk about day one, tournament number 1, and we're going to run through rounds 1 through 3. So starting with round 1, just for reference of folks listening, the mission for round 1 was turf war on wedge with schemes of detonate charges, catch and release, spread them out, let them bleed, and deathbeds. All right, so let's go, Yoni. So I assume Von Schill was in the mix for this. What was your thought process for Von Schill 1 or 2?
I went with Von Schill 2 for this. I think this one, this is the one of my set lists I've run a couple of times. I just wanted to. I've noticed that this list can do most pools decently, at least. So just went in with this for the first round to like basically just warm up, and so I just don't run out of time. So I know how to play this.
And that's really a good point. And for any listeners out there who are thinking about tournaments, this is really a great strategy, is like get your warm up in with a list that you're very familiar with, because it helps you play fast. It helps you feel sort of loose and able to do it because you have full command and knowledge of the crew. So what are the models in your fixed list that you like to take here?
So Von Schill, Steam Trunk, then both Eric and Hannah, both henchmen, the Hodgepodge Emissary, then a Frycore Engineer and a Frycore Librarian.
And are there any models there that you kind of tech in or out depending on the mission, or is it just kind of like, now this crew does everything solo?
The Engineer and Librarian both can be swapped for a Metallurgist if I want the unignorable armor on someone.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and I think this one has 7 stones to spend because of 2 henchmen and a master, so might need those stones.
Makes sense. So how did it go? How did this round turn out?
This one I lost, I believe it was 4-6. It was against Lucius 2.
Gotcha. Any notable moments or lessons learned?
Um, noticed that Lucius 2 is really hard to pin down because of the negatives to hit and the secret passage, like the secret passage, the teleport thingy that he has. And yeah, I just couldn't stop his schemes.
Now, did he use Lucius more as a schemer, or was he, because
Yeah.
Lucius 2 also hits really hard?
He did mostly scheme running with it. I think he killed I think my librarian died to Lucius, and probably my engineer too. Like the small guys died. I had the big stuff was left at the end of game still, but I just couldn't stop him from scoring. Yeah.
There you go.
Roger that. All right, and Klaus, we already said at the top that it was a Yanlo 2 day.
Oh yes.
Is there one list that you take with Yanlo, or do you kind of mix it
No,
up?
I pretty much mix it up. There's a few models that I basically have in every list, but the rest flexes quite a lot depending on the schemes. And like the models I always have are the 2 Kamainu and then Manos, because Manos is God. Manos has the hands of fate.
Nerf Manos.
Oh yes, and I was also playing against Guild here because, as previously stated, there were 6 Guild players. Funnily enough, I was also playing against Lucius too. But I won.
Well, there you go. So
Apparently your opponent didn't use him for scheming enough.
No, he tried to smack a lot of my models a lot. I had quite a bit of healing in this list. So, but he did kill quite a lot of models, but he didn't kill the right models.
Yep.
I also like really enjoy, but he wasn't prepared for the Manos coming over and shooting people and spreading staggered. He'd always only really seen Manos as someone who comes up and beats you, but I slowed down his entire crew, so they had problems coming over the center line.
Conditions are a big thing, and a lot of the lesser used conditions, like you'll see in a lot of high level tournament play, people really use conditions like staggered and stunned to great effect, where like your models that really rely on those the triggers, that stun condition really shuts those things down. And anybody that's used to leaping around and moving around all over the place, staggered really stops that. So it's pretty good counterattack.
Any other notable moments or lessons?
Well, I have to say that I learned one lesson in this first game that would serve me well through all the other games. Because Yanlo 2 is a giant Rube Goldberg machine. He can do so many things that end up bringing you nowhere. So the situation was as follows. I had picked detonate charges because it's a really easy scheme usually for Yanlo 2 to do. And I was planning how I'll move my Combiner over here, and then I'm gonna use Wary Road to get Yanlo into place, and then I'm gonna obey his guy, and then he's gonna walk into my scheme markers. And then I thought about it for a while, and then, well, I'll just walk over here, and then I'll place a scheme, and then I'll Wary Road, and that's the 2 schemes I need. I don't have to obey him to walk into any scheme marker field.
Yeah, that's much easier to do unopposed things. Yep.
If you I have to say, like, the big thing to learn here, I'd say, is that if you don't need to flip cards, don't.
Yeah. Well, and having like a Weary Road is such a good ability, and I know Yoni, you took that on the Hodgepodge Emissary, which
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of. Like when Detonate is in the when Detonate is in the pool, it's great because one model can just do Detonate as long as
Yeah.
you wait a while. But
Yeah.
on a master, it's even better.
Yeah, I didn't take Detonate. I used the emissary for deathbeds. I put down mines and scheme markers and kill stuff.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, well let's jump to round 2. So round 2 of day 1 is a Symbols of Authority round on standard, and the scheme pool was deathbeds, research mission, spread them out, bait and switch, and assassinate. So why don't we start with class on this one? Yanlo 2 again. What did you change up for this mission?
Well, I was facing Mei Feng in this, and one thing I know about Mei Feng is that she loves jumping all around the place. So I came to the conclusion. She also puts out a lot of scrap markers. And well, Yanlo 2 has the ability to, at the end of his activation, remove 2 markers to draw 2 cards. I came to the conclusion that this is not enough marker removal. So I decided to take in Anna Lovelace to have the placing aura and also an additional way to remove a scrap marker and to draw a card. And also, he ended up playing Mei Feng 2, and Mei Feng 2 likes targeting her own models, so the hostile work environment will work wonders. I also took in Toshiro the Daimyo and a Restless Spirit to summon some Ashigaru to protect my symbols, which worked quite well, I'd say. He managed to get 2 symbols off me, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, Anna is a huge pain in the butt for anybody playing against her. The hostile work environment is incredibly good.
Yep.
Yeah, and the gravity well. I mean, just the 2 of those together on one model, like Anna is, yeah, I'd definitely say one of the number 1 tech models in the Reser faction because it can shut down so many things.
Oh yes, it is wonderful.
Like I often in Outcast, I will take Eric just for the gravity well ability.
Yeah.
Like it's such a strong counter to a lot of game plans.
Yep.
Of course, Mei Feng has access to Sparks, which also has the hostile work environment. So it becomes a problem because Yanlo 2 wants to be able to target the Komainu that is carrying the string for his balloon. So I needed to kill him fast. One thing happened in the game that was a little bit unfortunate, but because a lot of cards had been flipped, we couldn't really take it back. My opponent forgot that Neil Henry wasn't a construct, so he charged Neil Henry with Sparks to try and heal him, and did damage instead.
Oh no! Oh no! Yep.
Yeah. This led to Neil Henry dying, and well, to be honest, he would probably have died anyway. But I got an extra attack on Sparks that ended up missing, but still.
So was that a win again for this one?
Oh yes, I won all my games. Spoilers, sorry.
And so humble, so humble.
Yep. All right, so
it is so hard. It is so hard to be this good and be this humble.
Oh, I see the problems that you have been blessed with in life, sir.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yoni, how about you?
Yeah, I was against Euripides this round. I hit the only Neverborn player. And I decided to go with Shield 1 for symbols. Mostly because of the pull trigger on his melee. So I can just throw his symbol runner into my crew, basically. If need be.
Nice. And does the rest of your crew typically stay the same for?
Yeah, mostly. This one was Shill, Steam Trunk, Eric, Hannah, the engineer, and then a Freikorpsman, a Prospector, and a Drachen Trooper, the flamethrower guy.
Mm-hmm.
Because of I wanted to get rid of the ice pillars, and
Yeah.
you can do.
I'm guessing since I played Neverborn, he probably had the Damned as his symbols runner, and he was
Yes.
putting ice pillars all around his symbols to try to prevent you from picking it up.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah,
Well,
typical year buddies.
there weren't that many ice pillars for some reason. I don't remember if it was just bad flips or I think he was a bit boxed in with his deployment, so he had to spend some activations to untangle himself.
Yeah, that's always a problem. Those big bases, that whole crew really has movement problems. If you, I don't know what was it corner? What was the
Standard. But
standard? Yeah,
there were lots of houses and crates strewn around, so
as there should be. All you TOs out there.
yeah.
And also probably one of the reasons why those guild players didn't do so well, because you're supposed to play with lots of scatter terrain.
Yeah. So yeah.
And how did you find the flamethrower?
Pretty useful with bonus action shockwave to remove markers or conditions if need be. Pretty useful, and now with 5 movement instead of 4, so you can actually just get somewhere if needed.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see more of the Draken Trooper in play. I've always loved the model and always thought it was like one cost too much and like just a tad slow. But now with the errata changes, I think it's going to see a lot more play.
Yeah, but it got nerfed pretty hard coming into 3rd edition.
Yeah,
It's not Flammenwerfer anymore.
yeah, yeah.
Just a flamethrower.
Just a flamethrower. Let's
You can no longer
see.
werf the flamme.
Yeah. Yeah. This round went to me 5-3.
Nice. All right, so
Oh, I forgot to say, my game's result was 8-3 for me.
ooh, nice, big win. Okay. All right, and then round 3. All right, so round 3. So last game of the mini tournament of day 1. So was break the line on flank, and then it was detonate charges, vendetta, bait and switch, claim jump, and hidden martyrs. So Yoni, why don't we go with you first? So going into this, you're 1-1, so that's, you're probably like middle of the pack there. Which version of Von Schill did you choose, and why for this one?
I chose Parker for this.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, because of lots of interacting with the break line, which Parker can get pretty easily. Just run things up to them, and then Parker shoots stuff and interact. Makes them
Gives you
interact.
the free interact, yeah.
Yeah. And flank deployment, I've noticed that a lot of players tend to underestimate how far I can actually kill stuff from with the run and gun. Because of like 17-inch threat range with 3 attacks. It's pretty far.
So do you end up having Parker actually doing a lot of killing?
Parker and Mad Dog.
Yeah.
And the rest are basically just running schemes or doing like killing the small stuff, running their schemes.
That makes sense. Yep. I do love that draw their attention ability.
Yeah. It's really useful. If I can't get strategy markers from it, I can just make someone drop a scheme marker, which they can eat up for Life of Crime. to give fast.
Nice. So yeah, so it sounds like that went pretty well.
Yeah, I think it was 6-2.
And what faction are you playing against?
Bayou.
Okay.
Mataket.
Gotcha.
Yeah, his list was slightly, to my limited experiences of Mataket, bit weird. He had 2 war pigs.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, with I think the inferiority complex, the upgrade.
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah, they are pretty fast, but then they died. So,
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna, I understand why you take Maw, and if you wanted to play with War Pigs, I don't know why you wouldn't take Ulix, and then you have War Pigs to your heart's delight.
yeah,
So that was an interesting decision on your opponent's part.
yeah, and I think also he lost one of his Rooster Riders turn 1.
Oof, that's rough.
To
your running gunfire.
Yeah, to Mad Dog.
Yep.
He ran it to one corner with the breaker line marker, which was on the same side that Mad Dog was, and Mad Dog had the Servant of Dark Prowess, so he was already up 6 inches. And then I think my Prospector dropped a ski marker for him for Life of Crime, so he could just charge and gun down the chicken.
And this is a lesson to everybody out there. When you're playing against Outcast, Mad Dog is very slow for a reason. If you run your guys towards him, they're probably going to die.
Yeah.
Unless you run really far towards them and engage him, and then he's a sad guy.
Yes.
Yeah, he's got that awesome cigar that he puts out in people's eyes. Come on.
Yeah, that's range 0. So just be an inch from him and be like, spend an action to walk to me and try to hit me and try to hit your trigger and try that's the anti-attack.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. So then, so Klaas, so spoiler alert, you won this one. But how did you do it?
Yeah, I won this, but only barely. I was playing against the other Reser player who was playing Kirai 1. And the terrain was really unfavorable for me. I was actually considering putting Kirai in myself, but I knew this guy had been playing Kirai all day, so I just felt like going into a Kirai mirror would have been boring. But the terrain in question was that this was actually the table that I brought to the tournament.
Oh, so you brought this on yourself.
I did. There was quite a lot of cover, and also there was a river that ran through the middle of the table, which, because it's my table, had been defined as severe concealing because it's a Finnish river, so there's a lot of fog on top of it.
I love it.
And then the problem, of course, is that I'm Jan Low. I want to shoot, and the only thing I ignore is friendly fire. Of course, my obey would ignore concealment if I target a retainer with a reliquary upgrade. But it was very, very challenging to start with. But I persevered and had a lot of my models killed. But I managed to burn alive his one of his martyrs, so that he didn't give up a point for that. We both scored full on strategy because he started from me the left side of the board, and I started from the right side of the board, and I went for the the break the line markers on the left side of the board, while he went for the ones on the right side of the board. So we basically did a swap over, and at the end he couldn't get his models close enough to me to actually do anything, while I had basically infinite number of ways to push the marker because of Yanlo 2.
Yep.
And I managed to bait him into, on the last turn, killing my martyr also, so that I managed to win it by 1 point.
Oh, okay. So that was very close then. You needed him to kill one of your martyrs.
Yeah, I thought I had managed to kill both his martyrs in one turn earlier, so that he wouldn't score it, but his martyrs were different models than I had originally thought. So he managed to bring his martyr into engagement with Manos on the last turn. So he scored from that.
That makes sense.
This is a shout out to Weird. I love Hidden Martyrs because it provides a lot of interesting dynamics in the game. Like, I can't tell you how many games where I've either been like, I don't want to kill anybody else here just in case. I've already secured the win. I'm not going to risk this. Or I've been on the opposite side of that of like, I need to somehow figure out how to make this guy kill one of my guys. Like, I'm going to go, like, do I need to run him forward? No, that's a little too obvious. Like, but he needs to kill him somehow. And I really like Hidden Martyrs, and I think it's a big balancing factor to the game. So kudos to Weird for keeping that around.
My favorite there is like using if an enemy has abilities that just passively do damage to you, like Black Blood is a great one, or like things that have auras of hazardous, like where you can effectively kill your own model off the ability of the enemy. and
That
score
shouldn't
the
work
marker that way.
on hazardous auras, though, because hazardous is always neutral.
If it's an aura, if it's an ability that
Yeah, but the hazardous is always neutral. This is actually something that I've been thinking about quite a lot, because I like using Yakuna Ubume, and she has the drowning aura, and basically it's her ability that kills. But then again, the hazardous rule says that that things that die to hazardous are always neutral. So,
well, there's other. I mean, the class of like things that do stuff, like you could do it on things that explode. So like explosive demise. You could kill an enemy model, take them with you, and have them kill you on the explosion, and then score Hidden Martyrs. Or actually, no. Would it? Yeah, because it still explodes on a demise, or like entropy on outcast model, like anything that's like ping damage, like all those things. So it's a good secret tech for martyrs if no one's killing your martyr.
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, so okay, cool. So day one, did this put you in first then, class?
Yes, I was the only one who was 3-0, I think, on day one.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, it was nice, and it was a nice surprise. I didn't expect it, because I haven't been able to play so much in such a long time. But I guess it's just Yanlo 2 needs more buffs. Clearly, that was the problem.
Well, so you went into this wanting to really solo Yanlo 2 and get a feel for it. Did you feel like you achieved that goal?
Yes, I think I very much achieved that on day one, and I got three good games in. There were very interesting games, and I learned new aspects of the master in every game. Like, for example, like when I had played before the tournament, I hadn't actually realized that all the ancestors except for Kenshiro are also retainers. So if you give one of your ancestors a reliquary, somehow you can gain the suit for the obey and ignore concealing when obeying that model. That ended up being useful on day two at one point, but a lot of new doors opened for me in playing Yanlo too. But now, when they nerf him hard, the question is how many of those are going to be useful lessons anymore.
Well, you've probably still got a good year, so enjoy it while you got it. How about you, Ioni? You went into this kind of like, hey, I'm here to play Malifaux. I have my lists. We're gonna see how this goes and kind of wing it.
Yeah.
How did that go?
Pretty well. It's fun seeing, playing against someone you haven't played before. So, see how they play, even if you played against the same master. How they build their list, how they play the master, and yeah, all the people were really, really great. Yeah.
One thing I have to say, though, is that I came to the tournament thinking, hey, I'm going to see play against a lot of new masters, because as I haven't played in a while, and I haven't even played more than once against explorers, this is going to be awesome. I had played one match against Lucius 2 before this, so I get Lucius 2 in the first round. Mayfeng 2 is a new master. I hadn't played against her. But then I get Kirai 1, which I've been playing for years. So I didn't get really, during day one, get this facing new masters kick that I was hoping for.
Yeah, same. I haven't played against explorers at all, and I managed to dodge the only explorer player. And yeah, we have a guild player in our meta, so those are pretty well explored already. So Lucius 2 and stuff for day 2. I played three matches against guild, and Euripides was new. I haven't played against him at all, and I think I've played one game against Mozart, but it was GG0.
Yeah. That honestly, I'm very surprised that there's only one Explorers player. When Jeff and I went to Captain Con, it was probably 20, it was definitely overrepresented was Explorers. A lot of people were playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but keep in mind, between then and now, the errata came down.
Oh, true. They nerfed Ivan a lot. That's true.
They got grounded into the dust.
Yeah, that's a good
unfortunately.
Point. That's a good point.
I may have missed this. What place did the Explorer Society player come in?
He went 2-1 on both days.
Okay, so not bad.
So decent showing.
Yeah.
I think he played mostly Jedza 2.
Okay.
And Jedza 2 is very strong.
Good choice. Cool.
I faced him in the final on day 3, but we'll get on day 2, but we'll get to that later.
All right. So that's actually
spoiler.
Great...
You won.
Yeah. Jeff, no spoilers. No. Cool. Well, that's actually a great segue to us taking another quick break, and we'll come back for day 2 of the GothFaux 6 Resurrected. So stick with us. We'll be right back.
GothFaux 6, sir. Hello. Do you like our podcast and want to ensure that it continues to run? Maybe you want to hear our outtakes on unedited footage. Or perhaps you're just flush with cash and you like being generous. Either way, we've set up a Patreon just for you. If you like us, please consider donating. Our Patreon can be located in the show notes. If not, we're all pretty sure that it's Herman's fault. Either way, if you like our show, go ahead and leave us a comment. Thanks.
All right, welcome back, folks. We are now going to talk about the second tournament. So day 2, this is its own separate 3-round tournament. Leaving the first day, we had Klaus in first. And so this was a reset on day 2, but we'll see how it shakes out. So before we start, did either of you change anything up for day 2? In terms of your plan or what you wanted to achieve on day 2?
Well, I decided that I'd won day one, so I don't need to take this day two so seriously. So I thought I'd just play what I wanted to play and not focus on playing OP Yanlo 2 all the time, though I did in the last game. Spoiler alert.
So I'm curious, do you guys have anything over there? If we in the States, we tried to get people to diversify and get away from only playing the best masters, and we actually Travis Wayforth from our meta here that has since stopped playing instituted the Iron Scorpius, where you get a separate award if you play a different master for each round. Do you guys have anything like that over there?
I don't know if the Swedes have it, but I think they do. They also have, at least in some tournaments, I've been the guy who plays all games with the same master gets something. And when I was in Poland, they had Iron Scorpius there. But as said, I haven't really played any tournaments since the start of the pandemic, so
Yeah, it's been a while.
Can't say that much, but like. I personally do like trying to play a different master every round sometimes, but for example, now I only had I had 3 masters with me in my case because it's a long trip, so I can't take everything.
That is a downside. I've noticed that when I travel for tournaments, I usually pick 3 or 4 masters and then their crew, and that's all that gets brought with me because airplanes and cars have limited space to them. All right. Well, going into day one, day two. Round one was turf war with a standard deployment, and the schemes were breakthrough, hidden martyrs, deathbeds, let them bleed, and outflank. And I guess we'll start. We've been starting with Joni a lot. Let's go with Klaus starting with this one.
All right, I will start. And in round one, I was facing the same guy that I played against in the second round of day one, which it was okay because he was a really, really nice guy. And he was playing 10 Thunders. And I decided I wanted to play something fun, so I took a crew that I would never normally take into Turf War, which was Kirai 2. Because all your things die, and then they turn all the markers, and everybody, and then you just have to cry when your opponent wins. But he took Lucas McCabe versus me, so I was a little bit worried about all that hypermobility that his crew has, but I found a really good solution to this problem. You kill everything.
Usually works.
Yep, dead is the best debuff you can give people.
Oh yes, this game, we almost ran into time here, but we did get at the end of turn 4. He had a Rough Rider and dismounted McCabe left. And the only real question at that point was, would he score a second point for spread them out or not? So what we did was we flipped initiative, and because I had the red joker in hand, I won that initiative flip so I could charge his McCabe so he couldn't get away at that point to score the point, and that was basically when we finished the game.
I'm curious because you were playing Kirai 2. At the point in the game when you had the most models on the board, how many models did you have?
I think I had 12 at one point. Bad. Yeah. But I started with 7.
Yeah, that's a significant amount of growing of a list there.
And I think that was turn 2.
Wow.
Yes, but as you can probably hear from the sighing that Jonni is making, my friends back home don't like it when I play Kirai 2. So that's why I wanted to take it out now. when I
I don't
could
think
at the tournament.
anybody
They
likes
can't run away.
Nice.
I don't think anybody likes it when anybody plays Karai 2. Not even the Karai 2 players.
I think Josh likes Kirai too.
Yes, he does.
He's not
It's
here
just-
to defend himself, but
I'm in the same position that that Yoni is in. It's Karai 2 is a little oppressive at times.
I think
All
it's
right,
funny about Kirai too that when shout out to Steam Powered Scoundrels that have been making these Excel things based on the Malifaux World Series. There was a statistic there about Reser title wins, and when you removed Kirai 2 from the equation, the win percentage actually went up. So Kirai 2 isn't doing that well, but still winning, but not that well. So without Kirai 2, I think it was like a 73% win rate on Reser titles or something like that.
Well, keep in mind, and this is true with all statistics, but if you get one player that's just really bad with Karai 2 and they play a whole bunch of games, it really
Yeah.
skews things.
Of course, but they are interesting statistics, I think.
They are, and things like that do help. I don't know how much weird factors into these things because Explorers got a very large beating in the last frequently asked questions when they weren't doing stellar in the tournament reports originally. So seeing that data does help to do some analytical background to things.
so
All right.
how about you, Joni?
This was another Shield 2 game with the same list from game 1, except with the engineer swapped out for a metallurgist. Because I was playing against Perdita 1, and Nino is annoying with
Indeed.
expert marksman upgrade. So irreducible armor is useful, especially with Eric. Yeah.
Anything notable that stood out with Perdita, like that crew, or anything special that you had to adjust in your schemes?
Not really. There was some. Well, I think it was like turn 4. My librarian really wanted Francisco dead. He was at, I think, 3 health remaining. And I just random ancient words, maybe do some cheap damage, hit him, tie him, and flip 4 kings to damage.
Oh, all right. Well, that's a thing that could happen.
Yeah.
Improbable, but it pulled it off. That's pretty good.
And meanwhile, Eric and a monster hunter had a slap fight, which was actually a good thing because the monster hunter was a Martyr's target.
Mm-hmm. You gotta love it when you luck into that, when they think you're gonna die and then you just like whiff, but it works for you.
Yeah, like I think 2 turns of just trying to hit each other and both whiffing, or something like that.
This is actually one of those interesting things of like Perdita against Von Schill. If I were the guild player, I would have immediately, and maybe they weren't familiar with Perdita 2, but I would have immediately audibled and decided to go with Perdita 2 because my guns do not beat your armor and guns. Like
and healing.
That's not how things work very well. So
yeah,
it was interesting, and I don't know the player, but that was one of those things that I probably would have, instead of me bringing my guns against your armor and guns, I would be bringing my guns and my whole army of guys that I can summon with it, and probably would have gone a lot better for him.
Yeah, maybe.
And Joni, you've played against Perdita 1 quite a lot, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
That helps too.
I knew that I was familiar with the cut them down on Perdita, the plus 50 if you're on full health. So I used Hannah's what's the ability called? Siphon.
So yeah, the
Ping.
where you ping damage for a suit. Yeah.
Yeah, I used that a lot to ping 1 damage to everyone, so that she wouldn't get the positives on damage.
That is some good tech right there.
Siphon power. That's what it
Yeah,
is.
siphon power. Yeah.
Yep. That is a clever meta technique. Cool.
And Volume Shield 2 is pretty good against finesse because of the Soldner Capitan. You just engage Francisco, and then the rest of your guys can hit him for free without any negatives.
Yep. That is some good info right there for people out there wanting to jump into some shill action.
Yeah, 2-inch reach, and you ignore all friendly fire core, ignore all negatives to duels.
And because I have a very short memory span, what was the end result of this game?
I think it was something like 6-3, 6-2, something like that.
Makes
Obviously, with you winning.
Yes.
And I'll briefly do a shout out for Scheme Powered Scoundrels, the episodes that Klaus mentioned. That's episodes 47 and 48. If you're curious to dig into some of the stats, they did 2 whole episodes about analyzing the Malifaux World Series results. So if you're a stats person, give those a listen. Head over to Scheme Powered Scoundrels on their Facebook page.
And let them know that you like us better.
Yeah, that too.
Oh, come on. Steamer for life.
All right, well, that's all the time that we have for today.
So suddenly Klaus disappears from the podcast.
Yeah.
That's great.
Okay, so moving into round 2, we had Symbols of Authority, standard deployment with deathbeds, research missions, spread them out, bait and switch, and assassinate.
That was day 1.
Oh,
I moved it in the dock. Sorry.
you are a horrible person. Why would you do that? Sorry. Day 2, round 2. Forget everything that I just said. I may actually edit it, but I may not because I'm lazy. Day 2, round 2 was corrupted ley lines with flank deployment. The schemes were claim jump, vendetta, spread them out, bait and switch, and catch and release. So let's continue on with this Klaus train and start off with that.
Right, so this is my second game that I played Kirai 2 in, because I'm just a bad person. And I faced the Bayou player, who was, again, playing Mawtucket with 2 war pigs and stuff.
Maybe that was his only crew that he had.
I think really that was the only crew he brought for that. He was testing it out because I think he's one of the guys who's going to 6 Nations for Sweden. So
gotcha.
he was practicing Mawtucket there. But this game, well, I won the game. I can't remember what the actual score was. I think it was something like 8-3 or something like that, because he did a slight tactical error on the first turn, bringing one of his war pigs so that I could actually see it. So I just used Yakuna Ubume to lure it into my crew and used the fancy towards against rule so that he didn't actually get into base contact, because the Warpig has a 0-inch range, while I could smack it as much as I wanted in my hazardous aura. And the game just spiraled for him basically after that. Things just started dying off left, right, and center. Ikirio killed a lot of stuff. Actually, I didn't win this 8-3. It was something like 7-3 or something like that, because I couldn't get the first martyr point because he couldn't kill Ikirio. So
Klaus obviously won like 40 to like -3, but I'm noticing a trend with this Mawtucket player that's taking these 2 war pigs. And it seems like in the first turn or early turns, he get something just a little bit too close. And the first game against Yoni, it was the Rooster Rider just got a little bit too close, and Mad Dog blasted it off the board. And this time it was a War Pig that got lured in, and but that's why we play these games. You can get a little bit better and learn positioning a little bit better of these crews.
Yeah, we had a very very large discussion, or quite a long discussion with him after this game about if his opponent declares Kirai, what could he do? What should he declare into Rezzers if with Bayou? If there is if Ikario is breathing down his throat, what can he do to change that? And I just told him if you ever see a Rezzer player, just declare Zoraida and push Ikario back into his own master and see how he likes it.
That is true, because all of the things that like manipulative and stuff like that do not work against friendly models. So using your own models against you when you're using a crew that's very manipulative is always fun.
And terrifying and things.
Terrifying, all those defensive techs.
Yep.
So, Yoni, how did your round 2 go?
I won this 6-4. I played Vix this round against Sonia 2. So lots of pyres and burning going on.
Sounds like a very hot time.
Yeah.
Girl on girl action.
Yeah, I brought Johan for this, for the condition removal, which proved useful, because I think at one point one of the Vix had 7 or 8 burning on her, and then Johan shouted at her and it went away.
By the way, that has always not settled well with me, of the whole like, hey, you're on fire, stop being on fire. Oh, okay, good, you're good.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. I didn't realize I was on fire.
Oh, now that you've told me, I'll just stop burning now. It's okay.
Yeah. And I really like Vix into ley lines because of how fast the whole crew is. And you can just give the stone to a Ronin, and she'll just run 15 to the other.
So when you're using your Vix, are you particularly Vix 1, are you using more of a slingshot method where you throw them up the board and try to kill a whole bunch of things, or are you more playing cagey and shooting at people? Because I know they can do both.
I usually use Vix as melee beaters, but I have shot people with them as well if I can't reach. Usually, if I have to double walk charge, then I'll just shoot instead and prep for next turn.
Makes sense.
And this game, I got to do a really nice, basically a rubber band thing with the Vix. Activate the other, pull one out of a pyre, and then walk charge Sonia, hit her twice hard, and then he goes, I think, with Sonia, pushes my Vic backwards a bit, and then throws a thrall at her, and then get some smacks, and then activate the other Vic, pull the aggressive one back to my crew, and then shoot Sonia twice. I think that was those activations. That put her down to 1 health. And then her Pale Rider came up and dragged her back to safety.
That's interesting. So I haven't played a vast amount of guild players, because guild's not all that maybe they'll become more popular, but they're not all that popular in the last edition and too early of this edition. But what I've seen a lot is when you catapult or send somebody into melee with Sonya Crid, what they'll typically do is they'll use the runic blade combined with drain magic to basically make your hand disappear while they get to sculpt their hand, because it's your target has to discard the card while you draw a card, and they'll use the soul stones for that, and then they just have a field day for the rest of the turn because they have all high cards and you have no cards. So it's interesting that he chose to pull Sonya out instead of going with that tactic.
This was Sonya 2.
Oh, Sonya 2.
Yeah.
And I know nothing about Sonya 2, so I have no comments about this.
Say, I didn't I haven't played against Sonya that much, 1 or 2, and this was the first against 2. So.
Oh yeah. Apparently you did a great job, because she does not look like she even has a melee attack.
No,
Sonya
she doesn't.
2.
Yeah, she's only
she has the burn them out, which is not a projectile.
Yep. But then you're only giving them burning, and Johan's just there to be like, stop burning!
Yeah, this was like she just pushed the wick out of her face, and then I think into a pyre, and then she yeah. And then
Okay.
Yeah, yes.
Cool. Yeah, I'm actually just looking over Sonya 2's card because I haven't really looked at it.
Yeah.
And, he going against people that are going to be in your face. Yeah, I don't know that I would have done Sonya 2, but I wasn't there, and armchair quarterbacking or hindsight is better than foresight. So,
Yep.
but looking, and so you won that game.
Yeah.
And
then that was, I think,
Well, I mean, like, pyre markers though can be an okay tech against melee crews. Like if
because
they
are severe.
you know where they're going to be. They're going to be next to your guys. So if you fill that with pyres, it's like, well, they're going to have a lot of burning.
The problem with ahead. Sorry, Yoni, go ahead.
Yeah, and in this game I borrowed classes Kenshiro with his what's the aura called? Fleet of Foot. Instead of, if you push near him, you get to move instead. So you can charge around the pyres. Because
but the big problem with pyre markers is if they were damage 1 and burning 1, that would make the tactic really good. But because they're only burning 1, you can you can just stack burning all day long on your person, like on a Vic, get up to burning 8 or 9, and then at the end of the turn just be like, and you're not burning anymore, and they did absolutely nothing that turn.
Sonya 2 also makes them severe, so that
helps slow people down.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Karis definitely has the best of the burning with making it injured as well.
Oh yes, that is.
But yeah, I agree. The only burning is it's situational. Like if you don't have condition removal, like good night. Like you could take tons of damage end of turn, but it's a little hit or miss.
Yep. So looking, I haven't looked at her all that much. She's more of a support master. She pushes her guys around and makes them attack. So yeah. Whatever. It's a different flavor for Sonya. So, looking at round 3, we're gonna stick with Yoni here, but the strats were Symbols of Authority, and the deployment was Wedge, and the schemes were Let Them Bleed, Vendetta, Research Mission, Assassinate, and Detonate Charges. So, sticking with Yoni, how did this last round go?
I won this 4-3.
Who'd you play?
Shield 2 again.
Good old Shill.
Yeah, into Nelly.
Oh, that's interesting. With Symbols of Authority, got another guild player coming at you.
Yeah.
Anything surprising other than the typical running their false witnesses in and trying to tie people up, and then watching the false witnesses die?
His false witness died on the second activation of the game.
Yep.
How did that happen?
His Pale Rider activated. Ride with me did forward, and then walked back to the bubble. Shield activated, motivated Eric to give himself boots. Then he leaped, bulldozed with the trigger to hit, smacked the false witness, smacked again, he died, and then he threw the shockwave into his bubble.
Well, that probably set the tone for that game. Dang, that's a strong second activation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the problem. Sorry, go ahead.
If I just may say something, because I know Eleanor will be very disappointed if I don't say this. Nelly, disgusting. Thank
Yes.
you. Welcome to my TED Talk.
Yeah.
That was a great TED Talk. And the big problem with Nelly is, particularly Nelly versus Von Schill, is Nelly likes getting things and getting them tied up to where you can't really do much when you get all tied up in her little bubble of like you're going to be on negatives to hit and just sit there and do nothing all the time. The problem is Von Schill doesn't really care about that. He just leaps out of it and says, "All right, now you're all going to die." So it's a problem.
Or you just throw Von Schill at the bubble, and then everything else shoots into it.
Or that. So that's a big. You basically ran into a big wall of counterattack on that one. So for the Nelly player, sorry, man.
It was like pretty tricky because I sent Eric to defend one flank against Fiona and the Pale Rider, which he did for a couple of turns. Managed to kill neither. But until Hannah came around and got rid of Fiona.
How many guild lawyers did he bring onto the table?
Lawyers, none.
Oh, interesting.
Ooh, surprising.
Yeah.
All right.
He had a guild steward, which I think died to burning from the flamethrower of the Dragon Trooper.
What did the only reason that I remember to bring a guild steward is because he's basically a time bomb. Did his blowing up hurt anybody?
Yeah. I brought the Dragon Trooper again because I remember that Nelly likes to hand out distracted, so I could just get rid of it.
Remove it. Yep. Good call.
All right, so that ended your day, and where did you position on day 2?
I was second.
All right, number 2.
Nice. Congrats.
And now for the big surprise. We've been talking this whole time about how Klaus has been dominating, and he lost this round. No, I'm kidding. All right, Klaus, how did your round go?
Well, this was one of those rounds where I realized I had won the last 5 games, and like the playing mat was in reach, so I decided that I'm gonna actually take this game seriously. Also, I was facing the Explorer player.
Well, hold on. Before you continue, you played Karai 2 in both of the games, and now you decided to take this one seriously?
Yeah, Kirai 2 is just for funs. Yanlo 2 is where the real power holds. But, yeah, apparently this guy was one of the better Danish players, and I saw that in his game. The cards just were really against him in this game. We had this.
And he was playing Explorers. What was he actually playing?
He was playing Jedza 2.
Jedza 2.
Yeah, and like I was a little bit worried because lots of irreducible is never fun. So, but we had this really, really nice board. It had several these little ice pillars that were about 20 millimeters around, and they were ruled to be hazardous damage 1 destructible. And I think like destructible hazardous terrain is such a cool and novel concept in itself. And also, I love this hazardous terrain in general because it's fun to play around. So I was really scared to start.
When you're playing an obey master with hazardous terrain, like charge, do an attack, take 2 damage for it, and you're hurting your, like, that's a pretty good combo.
Yeah, of course, but I don't want to charge anything close to Jedsa 2. She'll just kill everything. But that didn't end up happening. As said, cards were not in my opponent's favor. I mean, I drew really bad cards into hand. Generally, I played pretty much the same list as I had played in the previous Symbols game, except I didn't take Anna this time. I took Yin instead, and a few more stones. So during the first 2 turns, I couldn't draw a 12. After stoning and using Yanlo's deck sculpting abilities, I couldn't find a 12 to summon any Ashigaru, so it was like turn 3 when I was able to summon my first Ashigaru in the game. But a lot of stuff had happened by then. I'll just go through my crew. So Yanlo, Soul Porter, 2 Komainu, Manos, Yin, Toshiro, and the Restless Spirit. And something that happened on turn 1 was that rather early on, Jedsa decided to charge across the board and nuke one of my doggies. So one of the Komainu just died. Oh well.
It seems like a smart play on his part.
It does. But he didn't have very many stones. I think he only had 3 stones or something in total. So he didn't have much prevention for Jedsa. So I just started with charging Manos into Jedsa, shooting Jedsa with Yanlo, stuff like this, trying to whittle her down. I managed to get a hole in the world trigger off with Yanlo, so I placed her into base contact with one of the hazardous markers.
Oh, no.
And here is one of the good flips I made while he flipped bad. I obeyed Manos to charge Jedsa, and he hit and flipped a red Joker for damage, doing 6 damage to her. And then I won initiative on turn 2, and Jedsa died before making a second activation.
Wow! Oh,
So,
wow!
Yeah.
That's your key to beating Jedsa, people. Kill her.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
that.
This seems like Claus's strategy in general is just kill the other people.
We actually had a discussion with Jonni before going to this tournament, because both of us have lots of masters and lots of models that we haven't played against. And our theory was, if you kill an enemy model, you don't have to worry about its rules.
That is true.
That is a very true statement. Now, there's a couple of things that I picked up on when you were going through these. The first one was that you removed Anna to put in Yin, which I found kind of interesting because of how much Jedsa targets her own people to move them around with Jedsa 2, so that she can get basically the things that count as terrain moved around. So I found that kind of interesting.
As I said, I haven't played versus Jedsa before, so I didn't actually know what to expect. I had read the cards, but I've never seen a Jedsa game or played a Jedsa game, so I wasn't sure. So I wanted to go back on like things I was more certain of, because I know Yin is very good for taking symbols, and Manos is good for everything, and Toshiro is good for preventing people from taking symbols.
So there you go. That's the Finnish strategy for winning. If you don't know what it does, kill it. Ask questions later.
Yes.
But the other thing that I found really interesting is the Jedsa player. After hearing about the board, now I haven't seen the board. I don't know what it looks like, and obviously people don't know lists. But considering how much hazardous terrain was scattered around, like that's one of those things where I probably would have audibled into Jedsa 1. Number one, it there's no killing Jedza one. She just sticks around. And number two, all that hazardous terrain that's assuming it's probably impassable as well. You'd be pulsing out damage like all over the place with those things. And the crew is generally immune to the hazardous terrain for it. So I thought that was an interesting that he continued to go into that game with Jedza 2.
I think he was practicing Jedza too, because he's apparently also on his way to Six Nations. So
what brief aside, what is the Six Nations event?
it's apparently this really large pan-European tournament in England.
Oh, cool.
I'm going to venture a guess here and say that there are 6 countries that go to it.
You'd think that, but I'm not 100% sure. I just know that the Nordic team is Sweden and Denmark. They tried to get me to join, but it's just not a good time when it happens. Otherwise, I would have loved to go.
And if this is not true, and there are more or less than 6 countries going to this is false advertising, and I'm going to boycott the event.
I see. Anyway, continuing the game. Other weird stuff happened on that turn that I killed Jedza, because I also killed the Damned. The Damned came forward and nabbed a symbol. I had Toshiro charge him. Toshiro had a focus at this point, so I used focus and smacked him and hit him for severe 5. Because my opponent flipped a black joker. Then I smacked him again. I think I hit him, but on negatives. And I flipped the second red joker for damage, killing the Damned.
Well, damn. Oh, come on. My dad jokes are the greatest, guys.
Yeah.
Jeff,
also,
the answer... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, also, Jedza had, on turn 1, thrown in a more Wraith onto my side of the board, which he didn't realize was within 2 inches of 2 of my scheme markers, so I got detonate charges for free from there too. And the game just basically spiraled after that. I actually read Joker damage on turn 3 as well, but that was that versus the Moor Wraith that had 1 wound left. But yeah, the flips were really against my opponent in that match. I probably would not have won if not for really awesome flips there.
And this was the Danish player that came in third, is that correct?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, Eric. Yeah. I had never faced Orson and Wells before, and that was a pretty awesome model, I feel.
Yeah.
Also, Austera and Twiggy. That one was pretty good. And then
Austera is great.
Then he also had what's he called? The celebrity guy.
Oh,
Winston.
Winston, yes. Yeah. He had Winston too, and
he had a pretty good. He had a Jedza All Stars list.
Yeah,
got the scheme runners, and he had the Damned with him. So the Damned, Winston, Finnegan,
Orson and Wells, Mikhail, and I had more fun with actually with Yin, because Yin and Mikhail ended up fighting, and Yin has the built-in trigger to push the model, so I got to push Mikhail into some hazardous as well. And that helped me score Let Them Bleed.
And you said the final score was for this was...
I think it was 8-5 or something like that. I have to check. Check.
5 points when almost all your crew dies in turn 2.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty good.
That's a really good showing for losing your master at top of 2.
Oh, yeah. He played really well. He got two of my symbols. Then he got one from Vendetta. and I can't remember where the rest were from, but he had Ostera and Twiggy doing Vendetta on Manus, I think.
Well, and that's a good reminder, everyone, listeners, that even if something goes wrong for you early in the game, like you can still score a ton of points in Malifaux. So it's easy to get tilted or be like, oh no, oops, I lost my master, or like I'm done. But like scoring 5, that's amazing. That's really good. So it is definitely possible to have perseverance in the face of
Yes.
adversity.
And my opinion is that you should never rage quit unless your rage is actively harming your opponent.
Yeah.
I can't beat my opponent if I'm not beating my opponent.
I will say the one exception to that would be practice games. If you like totally flub turn 1 in a practice game, like sometimes the best thing is be like, all right, I'm obviously going to lose. We should re-rack and just restart turn 1, like to get more actual practice.
Oh yes, re-racking is a thing.
Yeah, it's like, oh, whoops! I did a dumb thing, and like I'm clearly going to lose because I like screwed up my unpack, or you put your master forward and got totally nuked out of nowhere, like so. But yeah, that's kudos to your opponent on that.
Oh yeah.
And there was something that Klaus had touched on earlier. I think it was in day 1, but I've noticed that a lot of the really good players that come out in the top in tournaments, afterwards they talk to their opponent and like discuss things. And I've noticed that a lot of the players that are in the bottom of the tournament, they don't do these things. Like they don't try to learn, like, hey, like what is a better way of doing this? Well, like and that's always a good thing. Like talking, if you have time, sometimes tournaments don't allow it. Like you don't have the time afterwards. But if you have the time, talk with your opponent, talk about the things that happen during the game, and things that like sometimes your opponent will point out something that you had no clue about, and you're like, oh, I need to remember that for next time. So it's always a good idea to talk with your opponents, figure out how things went, what he or she was thinking in the game, of like, if you were so close to this and then you didn't do it, and I was like, oh, thank God, like things like that, like, and you're like, oh, if I should have done that, and like it helps to grow as a player.
Indeed. Talking about games is important if you want to learn new things. Learn why you got nuked off the board on turn 1. Okay, it might be that your opponent just flipped red jokers, but why didn't you take that into account? He might only have had a little bit of a deck left, for example.
Or even just asking, like, if you notice your opponent doing something that you didn't expect, ask like why they did that. I think one of the things that folks often underestimate is you don't think about your own actions from your opponent's perspective, and you might not realize that something you did threatened some plan that they had that you weren't really thinking about, but you're like, oh, like my guy does this, and they're like, yeah, this model over here will just like die if you breathe on him with that model. Or there's like interactions like that you can often miss when you're not looking at your own play from your opponent's perspective. So it can be really interesting to understand like why they took actions that maybe you didn't expect, or they reacted to your plays in ways that you didn't expect, because you can learn more about your own play that way, and what to look out for in the future.
Yeah, I was playing against the infamous Kyle Bodie from Schemes and Stones in the most recent tournament that I went to, and he did something that was a little weird. He had Zoraida 2 with Dreamer, and he got first turn, he activated Zoraida, and he summoned something and did some stuff, and then he used an ability to make my Nexus go. Like, it forced Nexus to go next. And I was like, I did, and I made webs and things like that, and I was like, why did you just do that? Like that doesn't make sense to me. And he was like, honestly, because I forgot which one I was supposed to do it to. He meant to make what's her name, but that actually grows the
Meredith Stanley.
Meredith Stanley.
Yeah, he meant to get Meredith Stanley go, but he forgot which one actually grows the things, and he did it out of order. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But at the time, I was like really puzzled, like, why did you just do that? But it made sense afterwards. So it's those type of things, and it was a learning thing for me. I got to find out why he was doing it, but also for him, it's like, oh, that was a dumb moment on my part. So things like that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Also, I have to say that one of the pretty funny things was that Jonni was second, and we were both the only 3-0s after round 3 of day 2, and I only beat him out on diff because my first 2 opponents, I had beaten pretty thoroughly my first 2 opponents, so I was, I think, seven points ahead in diff going into round 3. And the funny thing is that at the dinner we had with all the players after day 1, we had joked that that day 2 was Jonni's turn to win.
So close.
Yeah.
He stole it from you, Jonni.
Nah, this usually happens.
He sounds so defeated about it. He's like, it happens. The stupid Karai too.
Cloth in general.
Just me.
Nice.
Well, it sounds like you guys had a fun time, and it sounded like it was a lot of traveling involved. But I'm glad that the traveling wasn't in vain, and you guys pulled out some Finnish finales there.
You finished well. You finished at the top of the heap. No, too much. No.
That's too much. If you continue, you're going to be finished.
Yeah, Owen, your jokes are dumb.
Yeah. Awesome. Any final wrap ups or things that you all want to plug? Or
one thing that we forgot to say at the start was this was a single masters event. There were no dual masters, which might be an important thing to say at some point, at least now at the end.
Yep.
And that it is rare around here that tournaments allow double masters. I've only seen one tournament that actually allowed it, and for some strange reason, everybody brought double masters. It didn't create a significant advantage over those that brought single masters. So, but there are definitely interesting combinations that people could pull off with it.
Yeah. I haven't played that much with dual masters, but I've run a couple of games with Tara as leader, and I've brought in Parker for free interacts basically.
Yep.
And damage from range, which Tara pretty much lacks completely.
Yeah, I think both Parker 1 and 2 are fairly decent second master picks to help things.
At least one, because he doesn't really need anything from your crew.
Yeah.
He just is there and shoots stuff. Makes your other things interact if needed.
All right. Well, assuming no other things, I want to thank our guests, both Klaus and Jonni, and say to our listeners, you should see some movement on our USFaux Tour site soon. Standings are hopefully going to be posted in the near future, but for now you can submit your tournament results on our webpage. That's www.usfauxtour.com. Anything you want to throw out there, Owen?
Nope. We'll.
Oh, and get your Nova Open tickets. The event is almost sold out.
Oh, yes.
So you might want to go jump in on that. I might have to talk with Owen about expanding it if this keeps growing, because I think last I checked we had like 5 tickets left.
So we rebalanced the events in late May, early June. So if you want to see the Malifaux event grow, get your tickets.
And our new friend Klaus is a world traveler, so you never know. He may pop up out of nowhere.
Who knows? Well, I do, but...
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you both. And we'll have to play Vassal sometime.
Sure.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Capital City Crew podcast. We hope you tune in next time.